Hi there, welcome to Saucy Shawn's Fine Eats first or second, depends how we add them up, video. Saucy Shawn is me. Why Saucy Shawn? Well, because I'm a bit of a smart donkey and I also like to make sauces. So Sarah and myself, we're going to be sitting here and we're going to be making some videos and teaching you guys how to cook some stuff, hopefully. I've been a camp cook up at Whispering Pines Bible Camp for a few summers, well, for a few weeks, off and on over the years. And I'm a caterer, Saucy Shawn Fine Eats. And I also was a full-time food service manager at another camp for 2 years where we fed, in the summer, about 250 people a day. That was a lot of work. In the rental and retreat season, we do groups anywhere from like 20, 30 up to about 300. So I try and make all my recipes scalable so that you can easily make more and more of them as you go along. And I try and make them easy so that anyone can do them. Some of them take a bit of skill, but you'll learn that as you go. And what you need to do, you need to practice, practice, practice. So today we're going to do Saucy's basic bun dough recipe. We're going to make enough dough here in about 2 dozen buns, dinner rolls. This is my basic dough recipe because A, it's basic, but I also use this bun recipe for a number of other things like cinnamon buns and pizza buns, and heck, I think I've done pizza with it, and I don't know, I've done a lot of stuff with it. It can also be expanded into sourdough. So a couple things to remember. First, the recipe will be posted on my website, which is saucyshawns.com. And I'm always open to questions and comments. The goal here is to provide real food for real people. So, you know, if you're a follower of people like Gordon Ramsay, I'm not him. I don't want to be him. He's got great talent, but that's not the audience I'm going for. So don't try and compare me because it won't work. So we're going to make enough dough for 2 dozen buns. We're going to start by taking 2 cups of really warm water. Want it really warm because the warmer it is, the faster it will rise. You want it around body temperature, a little bit more. With 1 cup, 2 cups of water. You can also take it out of a kettle if you want. That's perfectly fine. Into that water, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of oil. I'm just using plain canola oil today. You can use olive oil or grapeseed oil or I don't know what other oils there are at the moment, but there's lots of them. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of oil, 1/4 cup of sugar, just white sugar, and then 1 tablespoon of yeast, dry active yeast. Just going to stir that all up a little bit, and we're going to be waiting for the yeast to do what's called proofing. And what's going to happen is, in the bowl here, where all the yeast is, it can start bubbling up and getting all bubbly and goopy and yucky, and at that point we'll be able to start adding our, there's my measuring cup. We'll be able to start adding our flour into it. So while that's happening, now is a great time for questions from the audience. Oh, right, there's no audience. Oh, I'm so new to this. It's so crazy. Some people think I'm crazy. They are absolutely right. But other people think I'm just a bit psycho, and they might be right too. Sarah is trying not to laugh out loud in the background, even though she's about to burst into laughter, and that's okay too. This recipe is great. The one thing I'll say is a lot of the recipes I do and will be doing in the future, I try and make them gluten-free, nut-free, etc. because I've done a lot of camp cooking, and when you're doing camp cooking, you need to keep it friendly for people who have allergies and stuff and food sensitivities, and you really don't want to have to cook 3 or 4 different meals each time you're cooking a meal. You want to make things as generic as possible. Buns? Yeah, they aren't gluten-free. I know some people are good at gluten-free buns and bread and stuff. I definitely am not one of those people. In the future I might be, but yeah, this will be full of gluten. So you see how the yeast is starting to proof in here?
Put it a little closer to.
Oh, I need to put it a little bit closer here. See, the yeast is starting to proof in here. Starting to get bubbly. The good news is that means the yeast is alive. We can let it go for a bit longer, or we can just start using it now. And because I know it's alive and I know it's good fresh yeast, I'm just going to keep going. I generally have been using yeast from Costco. It's the Red Star here in Canada, but any dry active yeast should work just fine. So I'm going to move it over a little bit so I don't get the camera all yucky. Then what we've got here is 4 cups of flour, approximately. You know, I say approximately because some people say when you're baking you have to have your exact measurements. You got to take your measuring cup and put it in. Oh, I know what I need. Put it in and take something like a knife, which is flat on the back, and you know, kind of level it off and make it exactly a cup. I just don't have the patience for that. So what I do is take a scoop, level it out, and call it 4 cups. And depending on the humidity, the weather, the day, you might find you need more or less flour anyways, so we're going to make an approximation. So I've got about 4 cups in there. This is the bit of extra I had. I'm going to dump it in about a cup at a time and start mixing it up. We just want to mix it up in there, get it all kind of disappearing, it's going away. When I was first told to do this recipe, it was like, mix it in a couple of times until it just disappears. I never did quite figure out what the just disappears means, but I did finally get the recipe figured out. So we're just going to mix it in. While you're doing this, well, you don't need to do that yet, but because we have to let this dough rise twice. So we need to let it rise in bulk like this, and then we need to let it rise after it's made into buns. So, but when you start doing that, depending on the temperature and how long it's taking to rise, you're going to want to preheat your oven to about 350 degrees. Funny thing, I was talking to an American friend the other day, and he's like, you know, what do you use for measurements up there? Because he knows we're metric and they're not. And I kind of had to laugh because most people, you talk to them, well, for me, you know, body temperature, oven temperature is Fahrenheit. Room temperature, outdoor temperature, Celsius. We buy gas in liters, we buy pop in liters. We technically buy all of our meat and produce in kilograms. But guess what? When you go to the store and look at the sale signs, it's always in pounds, isn't it? Yep. Most recipes are in cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, etc. And I will provide that information, and that's what I'm telling you now, but I'm also going to provide it to you in metric because it makes it a lot scalable. So the dough, I'm going to interrupt myself here, the dough is getting pretty thick for the spoon, so I'm just going to take the spoon out. And it's still going to be really sticky, so I'm going to add a bit more flour. I'm going to start kneading it, and I knead it right in the bowl. You can take it out and knead it on your counter if you want, or on a breadboard or something, but all that's going to do is make a bigger mess. So we try and avoid that. But yeah, when I provide the measurements, I'm going to provide it in metric as well, because metric is much more scalable. If you want to do this recipe and multiply it times 10, you're going to need 10 teaspoons of salt. Well, how much salt? That's a lot of teaspoon measurement. I have no idea how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. Well, there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. I have no idea how many tablespoons are in a cup, for instance. So if we do it in metric, it's 5 milliliters, which means you need 50 milliliters because it's times 10. So it just makes it a little bit easier. Now right now you can see this dough is really sticky. So I'm going to add some more flour. And what you're doing with kneading is you're pushing the dough down with the heel of your hand, fold it over, and push down again. Turn it 90 degrees. Do the same thing. Just keep doing that over and over. You should be kneading it for something like 5 minutes. The longer you knead, the more you develop the gluten in it, and it gets whatever the gluten does to the bread. I know there's all science to it, but it gets it all nice and chewy and stuff, I think it is. Gets the air into it, gets everything mixed up nice. So you see, I just added a bit more flour a little while ago because it just was too sticky. different times of year, different moisture levels, need a little bit more. Can add a little bit more, but you can see how this is forming into a nice ball now. It's getting a good consistency. It's not sticking to yourself, so we're going to knead it a little bit more here. I'm probably not going to knead it the full 5 minutes, because that would be boring for you guys out there in the interweb land. Yes, I said interweb. Yes. I'm a bit of a goof. So we get that nice finish on it. Start getting up all the goop from the inside of the bowl. And just keep going at it. You can do this in a mixer as well. I truly find, man, if you're doing it, you know, for 20 dozen buns, you're going to want to use a mixer. I find that the most you can do in one time by hand is about 6, maybe 8 dozen if you're really brave. But it just feels better when you knead it by hand. It's like it's got the love added into it. Okay, so that's a decent dough. We could keep going. Let's do a couple more times here. And what we're going to do is, it gets really cool. We're going to take that and wash this gunk off my hands quickly. Okay, so we got our dough. It's done there. It's all kneaded. We're going to grab another bowl. We're going to put a couple tablespoons, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of oil in there, something like that. Probably a little bit much, but that's okay. And that's just plain old canola oil. I'm going to take the dough ball, put it, the top that was in there, we're going to put down in here. We're going to rotate it around in here, flip it over. Make sure all the edges are covered in oil. And we're going to cover it. You can cover it with like a tea towel, with saran wrap, whatever. And we're going to place it aside and let it pretty much double in bulk. And that's going to take half hour to an hour to do. So we're going to put this aside, and through the magic of the interweb and video and planning ahead, we already have dough ready to go. I made this earlier, this one here. You can see it's risen up really nice. It's over double in bulk. It's really great. Look at that air bubble there. That's awesome. Really good and airy. I've got a baking pan right here. And we're going to take this. I've covered it with parchment paper, which you can buy in pretty much any grocery store or Costco. It keeps things from sticking, keeps your pans cleaner. It's really great stuff. We're going to take this, we're going to punch it down. Punch that guy down, get her down there. Get the air out of it a bit. And then we're going to start forming buns. And different people have different ways of doing this. But that's going to show you a quick way. I'm going to start taking it and just squeezing it out there between my fingers and making balls. They're about that size. That's a good size, I think. Roll this around a bit, get a nice smooth edge on the top. Try and get that. You'll notice I'm not good at looking at the camera yet because, well, this is kind of new to us and we're trying to figure out how we do this. But, you know, it's all part of the fun. Just keep grabbing more dough, swishing it around, putting these down here, trying to keep, that's why kind of oil is important, helps squish it around. We squish that up. These make really great dinner rolls. You can make them bigger and make hamburger buns out of them. You can Do all sorts of stuff with this recipe.
Can you make just a loaf of bread with it?
It's actually not very good for bread.
Oh.
There's better recipes for bread. It's close, but it's a little bit too soft for bread. It doesn't hold its shape well enough.
That makes sense.
You can also do these with half whole wheat flour, half rye flour. Kind of experiment with different flours. And see what happens. So the goal is to get 2 dozen buns. I'm easily going to get 2 dozen buns out of this this batch of dough. Could make them a bit bigger, that would help. If you're really fussy and want things perfect, you could need to spend more time shaping them and getting them right. I tend to like things that are just natural and real and not perfect, because none of us are perfect. Some cool tips is if you don't have good baking sheets and stuff like that, you can actually go to commercial restaurant supply stores, or if you have a wholesale club if you're in Canada, and buy baking sheets for like $5. Aluminum, simple sheets. They work really well. They're what the pros use, and they cost a lot less than going to Walmart and buying the expensive Wilton or non-stick baking sheets and stuff that really just are coated with more yuck stuff. So you'll find that you can get a lot of things in the professional quality a lot cheaper than you'd think, and a lot cheaper than the fancy stuff. So once we get these buns all formed on here, we're going to, in a perfect world, cover them with plastic, set them aside for about half an hour to an hour till they're doubled in bulk. Once they're doubled in bulk, we're going to throw them in a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes and cook them until they're golden brown. After they're cooked, you pull them out, let them cool on the pan for a few minutes, and then take them off and let them cool. If you have a rack, let them cool on the rack a bit longer. Not too long if you really want to eat them. I mean, you get some butter and have a couple of buns, because they're really good. If you did them right, even if you didn't do it perfect, you'll make them to the point where you like them. And that's what's important, is making food that you like. It's not making food that I like, it's not making food how I like it, or how somebody else likes it. It's about making food how you like it, so that you're happy with it. If you want to be more fancy and get everything perfect round orbs, you can do that. I'm not going to criticize you. I'm going to go, good for you. It's just not my style, so kind of avoid that. So I'm getting down to the end here. Here's where it gets a bit messy. Here's where I get to the ones where I don't serve my customers, where I get to eat them myself, because they're good. We've got that last little guy there. Just going to make him into a little ball. There we go. So what did I get out here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 27 buns of that recipe. Hope that helps. So what we're going to do is just going to put these aside. We're going to come back when they're doubled in bulk, and we will throw them in the oven and see how it goes. Talk to you in a little while. Okay, we're back. Our buns have risen over the past, it's been close to an hour, I guess. It is winter, so things do take longer. We're going to put these in a 350-degree oven. They're going to sit in that oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then we'll pull them out, and you'll see the results. Yeah, don't be afraid of this. Just don't, make sure you set a timer, and don't forget that you've got buns in the oven. In the literal sense. Anyways, thank you. We'll see you soon. Okay, so we've had these in the oven for 20 minutes now. Look at these. Look at these buns. Oh, look at that. Soft. Sarah gets one too. Hot. Hot.
Too hot.
Oh. That there, folks, is a fine dinner roll. So what you want to do is, we don't want to leave them on the parchment too long. So I'm going to just dump them off onto my cooling rack here. Normally I'd wait a few minutes, but you guys are bored with this video already, and I want you to see it through to the end. So there we go. There's your dinner rolls. Oh, look at that sliding off. So there you go, folks. A couple dozen dinner rolls all ready for you to eat with your supper, or make little sliders out of for hamburgers. Put some butter on there, wolf it down. You can brush these with melted butter, sprinkle a little bit of salt or some herbs on them if you want to get fancy. Turns out really good. Let them cool a little bit before you do that, but just for like 5 minutes or so, then you can do that. There you go. Be sure to watch our other videos. I'm Saucy Shawn of Saucy Shawn's Fine Eats, located here in Airdrie, Alberta, where if you need a caterer and you want real food, think of me. Visit our website, saucyshawns.com. That's SAUCYSHAWNS.com. And we hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.